Welcome to the Perrysburg Podcast, episode 35. I'm your host and Perrysburg resident, Kim Newlove. Today, we're talking about spring brush pickup in both the city of Perrysburg and Perrysburg Township. If you are new to this podcast, welcome. The Perrysburg Podcast is an informational podcast for prospective, new, and current Perrysburg, Ohio residents. We talk about what's in Perrysburg and why people like to live here. You can find the show notes for this episode on perrysburgpodcast.com. Just a quick story for you as we get started. In July of 2007, my family moved to Perrysburg. It was my husband, Nathan, our two kids, Craig and Derek, and me. We were busy. My husband was working full-time. I was working part-time. We were raising kids, including one with a disability who needed a lot of help. And we did not pick up the clue phone about spring brush pickup for a couple of years. When we moved here, there were a lot of firsts, including spring brush pickup. We didn't catch on to the fact that there was even a newspaper just for Perrysburg at first. We didn't know where to get information. The internet was not then what it is now. So we were the people who were raking our leaves to the curb when the truck was on the way down the street. Or we were scratching our heads when we missed spring brush pickup. That was us. It happened. We saw piles of sticks by the street in our neighbors' yards, and the clue phone was ringing, but we didn't catch on to when the crews were making the rounds for brush pickup in the spring. We just didn't know. We were two working professionals with a young family, including one that needed a lot of help out of town going to therapies, and it took us some time to catch on. Now that we've been here for 17 years, we've got leaf collection and spring brush pickup all figured out, and we feel very lucky to live in a town that provides both services plus a backup plan. Why am I telling you this? Because if you are interested in moving to Perrysburg or you're brand new here, this informational podcast episode will help you in a way that I needed when I moved here. Simple things like finding out about services that your tax dollars pay for is helpful. And honestly, it's a small town friendly thing for me to do for you. So I hope this episode helps. This episode has two parts. First, we will talk about spring brush pickup in the city of Perrysburg, with special guest Marie Dunn. Marie is the City of Perrysburg's Public Information Officer, and she has the details that you need if you live in the city. In the second part of this episode, I'll share what I learned about spring brush pickup in Perrysburg Township from Perrysburg Township Maintenance worker Andy Frankforther. Before I roll my interview with Marie, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all of the city and township maintenance workers. Thank you. If you, my listeners, see them out there doing their jobs, give them a smile and a wave or a thumbs up. We all have places to go and things to do, but these folks are helping us out, so let's treat them well and show them a sign of thanks when they're on our streets. Gratitude first is always a good way to start. Now, at this time, here's my conversation with Marie Dunn. She is the Public Information Officer with the City of Perrysburg. Hi, Marie. Welcome back to the Perrysburg Podcast. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm good. It's raining outside, though. It seems like spring's on the way.
I know. I can't wait, actually. Been waiting for... Actually, we didn't really have a cold winter, so it'll be nice once we get spring finally here.
That's right. And with spring coming up, spring cleaning, spring brush pickup, all the spring things are coming up. What can you tell me about spring brush pickup in the city of Perrysburg?
So spring brush pickup begins in Perrysburg on Monday, April 1st at 7 a.m. So that's when our crews are going to start hitting the roads to go pick up the brush that's at the curb. We ask that everyone have their brush out at the curb by that time. They're going to start on the west side of the city and they're going to head east. Just make sure that you have it out there. Even if you're on the east side, you might have a few days instead of that hard April 1st date because it's going to take some time for them to get there. But they're only going to make one pass through the city. So just make sure that you have it out there on time, in time for our crews to come pick it up.
Words of wisdom. I am one of those people that often either waits till the last second or has to has to figure out what do I do now that I've missed it. So for anybody who misses it, like me sometimes, what do you do?
So if you miss a spring brush pickup, what you can do is, if you're a Perrysburg resident, you can go to Renewed Outdoors. It's located on North Dixie Highway, and you take your photo ID, some type of proof of residency, and you can drop off your brush there for free. Renewed Outdoors is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturday, 8 to 3. They're not open on Sundays, and they're open from March 15th through December 15th. So you can take it there, show proof of residency, and drop off your brush for free.
Good to know. I missed leaf pickup and it's not intentional. I do sometimes start raking when they come down my street, but a lot of times my leaves don't fall in, the fall season until December after the leaf pickup has ended. So I just want to say that Renewed Outdoors is definitely a great business because my son took all of our leaves, put them in the back of my pickup truck, drove them down, and I think he showed my tax bill to them, and they let him in. He unloaded, and that was that. It was a piece of cake. So for anybody out there that has brush and you miss the pickup, Renewed Outdoors is very easy to work with. So don't worry, you can still take care of it if you miss spring brush pickup.
That's right. It's one of the great perks that you have as a city resident is to be able to do that for free.
Yes, two good solutions. Do you have any tips for what Perrysburg residents should do with their brush? I mean, where should they put it?
You should only take it to the curb. Don't put them in any alleys. Our crews cannot go down the alleys to pick up the brush. So make sure it's on the curb in front of your house. The limit on the actual length of it is 12 feet long. Make sure that the brush is parallel to the street and away from mailboxes, trees, fire hydrants, light poles, things like that. I know it might be kind of hard, but just try to keep it away from those areas because our trucks have to maneuver around all of that to get to it. Stack them loosely. Don't tie them up. Just stack them loosely at the curb. Place small clippings and twigs in personal garbage cans. Don't use the city issued toters so that they can be easily dumped. And so the crews are going to pick up branches, bushes, logs, stumps, firewood, and Christmas trees. So if you still have a Christmas tree laying around, you could throw that out there and they'll pick that up too. Once they've been down your street, they're not going to return. And we have a supervisor that's going to go around at the end of the pickup to make sure everything was picked up.
Good information. Now, when I think about putting all of my stuff out at the curb, I put it between my sidewalk and the actual street. Am I doing that right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay, good.
Correct. That's the city right of way. Just put it right there. Don't make sure it's not in the street because then we'll have to get around it. Cars can't get around it. Our trucks are the same trucks that are used to pick up the leaves. So they're pretty big to maneuver around all of that. So just make sure it's in the right of way between the sidewalk and the curb, and you should be good.
Very good. One other follow-up question. You mentioned that you can put your spring brush in personal garbage cans. Did I hear you right?
Yeah. So if you have small clippings like twigs and just some brush, it's not big enough to put at the curb, you can throw it into a personal garbage can and then they can dump those into the dump truck when it comes around.
That's a good deal for the resident and the crew, I think. It's containerized. I love the word containerized. Put it in a container. It's easy for everybody. That's cool.
Yep, exactly.
All right. We talked about what happens if you miss it, some tips for residents. How about, can you tell me, what does the city do with all this stuff? I mean, is there like a giant junk pile somewhere? I mean, what does the city do with all this stuff?
I don't know if I'd call it a junk pile, but there is a mulch and compost pile that's located near the wastewater treatment plant the address is 3 West Boundary Street. It's a compost and wood mulch that's available for residents for free. So they can go down there anytime. And that's what happens when they take it to Renewed Outdoors. Renewed will mulch it up, turn it into mulch and compost, and then dump it back down there for residents for free. So we're recycling all of it. And that's free and it stays down there until it's all gone.
Nice. Oh, until it's gone. So it does get used up every year?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'll have to
Yes.
take a look. I have seen stuff back there. So sometimes I'll drive my car. It looks like I'm going to go, down this hill, but that's where the boundary street is, right? I mean, you go down the hill from Front Street, you could go down there, and as I go kind of towards Orleans Park, on my right, I think I have seen this brush pile. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly right. You go down that hill off of Front and it takes you down. And then on the right-hand side, right before you get to the wastewater treatment plant, it's right there. And it says free for Perrysburg residents. So you can just go and take what you need. And then there's no checkpoint or anything like that. It's an honor system.
Good to know. Okay. I learn something new every time I talk to you, Marie. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's another great perk of living in the city as well.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention about spring brush pickup before I let you go?
Yes, I wanted to mention the spring brush collection status dashboard. If you go to the city's website and click on the spring brush pickup link that's on the homepage under news, you click on that and then it'll take you, there's a link right at the top that says the spring brush collection status dashboard will be updated at the end of each business day so you can track where crews have been. And that is a map that our public service department updates at the end of each business day. And what they do is they put in the streets that they've already been down. So when you look at that map, it'll show you all the streets that the crews have been down and collected the brush. So you can tell if you don't know if they've been down your street yet, you can look at that map and it'll show you. It'll also show you how far they've progressed each day.
Okay, sounds like it's updated at the end of the day. Is that right?
Yes, at the end of each business day, it's updated.
Okay, so then people know if they come home from work, they got work to do, or if they missed it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that information about the spring brush pickup. I don't want to miss anything. Anything else come to mind before I let you go?
No, I think that's it. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep, always a pleasure. Let's work together again someday.
Sounds good.
All right, take care. Bye, Marie.
Bye.
Great job, Marie. I think that's the third time she's been on the podcast, and I appreciate her. She was on episode 11 to talk about fall leaf collection, and then episode 20 to talk about porch pirates. If you haven't listened to those two episodes, go to perrysburgpodcast.com and listen today. I'll have a link to the City of Perrysburg's website in the show notes for episode 35 on perrysburgpodcast.com as well. Next up, we have the facts about spring brush pickup in Perrysburg Township, care of Perrysburg Township maintenance worker Andy Frankforther, and the Perrysburg Township website. Two great sources of information. Thanks again, Andy, and the Perrysburg Township website for helping me out today. Let's begin. Brush pickup in Perrysburg Township starts on Monday, April 1st, and it goes on for 3 weeks. Week number 1 starts on April 1st, and crews will be out there to pick up brush north of 795 and east of the Perrysburg city limits. Week number 2 starts on April 8th, and crews will pick up brush east of 199 and south of 795. And finally, week 3, crews will pick up brush in Perrysburg Township west of 199 all the way to the Perrysburg Township limits. That includes those who live along River Road on the west side. Sounds pretty straightforward. You can find all this information on the Perrysburg Township website. I'll have a link to that in the show notes for episode 35 of the Perrysburg Podcast on perrysburgpodcast.com. What do you do if you miss spring brush pickup in Perrysburg Township, or you have a new pile in the month of May or June? You might not find this podcast episode until the summer. Who knows? Perrysburg Township residents can take their brush and yard waste to Renewed Outdoors on North Dixie Highway that has a Perrysburg address. There's a link to that business on perrysburgpodcast.com. I personally have sent my adult son there with a truckload of leaves in early December. My trees, for whatever reason, don't lose their leaves until December, and I have a pickup truck. So all I had to do was have him load up the leaves, and it was a lot. He worked really hard. He drove over to Renewed Outdoors, showed proof of residency, and dumped the leaves. It was just that easy. Just show up at normal business hours, have your proof of Perrysburg residency ready, and Renewed Outdoors will let you in and you can dump your brush. At this time, I'd like to share 10 tips for spring brush pickup in Perrysburg Township. Again, this is courtesy of Andy at Perrysburg Township Maintenance Department and the Perrysburg Township website. Number 1, have your brush out by 7 a.m. on the Monday of the start of your area. Again, there are 3 areas. Check those out on the Perrysburg Township website. Number 2, crews will not return a second time, so have your piles placed curbside on time. Number 3, the website says to place your cut ends facing the street, but Andy from Maintenance says either orientation is fine, either parallel or perpendicular to the street. Number 4, branches should be left as long as possible. I take that to mean that if a 15-foot branch fell from your tree, you can go ahead and slide that whole thing over to the curb. You don't need to cut it up with a chainsaw. Crews will pick it up. Number 5, all your piles need to be neatly stacked, not intertwined. No need to practice your basket weaving skills. Piles are good. Number 6, brush will not be picked up from clearing of lots. Now, this one must be important because it's actually on the township website twice. The first time is at the top of the website in bold, and it says, and I quote, Perrysburg Township brush pickup is for residential trimmings and fallen branches, not for clearing of lots or removing entire trees. End quote. I'm sure that would be a funny April Fool's Day joke, seeing a big old tree at the curb, but it won't get hauled off, so joke's on you. Don't do it. Number 7, brush only is to be placed at the curb. No building materials, weeds, or other materials. Number 8, there will be no brush drop-off at the Perrysburg Township Maintenance Department. Number 9, brush pickup is dependent on weather. And finally, number 10, don't place piles behind utility poles and other obstructions like cars, garbage toters, and mailboxes. That ends my tips and information about spring brush pickup in Perrysburg Township. If you are a prospective, new, or current Perrysburg, Ohio resident, I hope you enjoyed hearing about spring brush pickup, one of the helpful services available to Perrysburg residents. This has been episode 35 of the Perrysburg Podcast. Thanks again to Marie Dunn from the City of Perrysburg and Andy at Perrysburg Township Maintenance for your input on this episode. And thank you for listening. Links to Perrysburg Township's website, the City of Perrysburg's website, Renewed Outdoors, and more are in the show notes for episode 35 on perrysburgpodcast.com. And by the way, if you go to the website, join the email list for our weekly newsletter. If you know someone who needs to learn about spring brush pickup in Perrysburg, either the city or the township, please share this episode with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Perrysburg Podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you next week.